So let's fly over the Elangeni TVET College campuses located in KwaZulu-Natal, and you can see the Durban harbour on your left hand side, and then on the right, if you look carefully, you can see King Shaka Airport, and in between you've got the elangeni River and the Inanda Dam running all the way upwards past Pietermaritzburg, and in the background you can see the Drakensberg. And to start our journey, let's drop down and visit the mouth of the elangeni River. This was the place where Vasco da Gama came to replenish his water when he was traveling all the way through from Portugal to India. He stopped over here, and it was like 1497, and it was Christmas Day. So he called it Natalia, which is the Latin name for Christmas. But the major reason why I've chosen the elangeni River as our opening point for the elangeni TVET colleges is that many of the campuses are located in the old informal settlements and historically black townships that were located just outside of Durban alongside the elangeni River. Places like Inanda and KwaMashu and Ntuzuma and Kwadabeka, and that's going to be the first place we go and visit by swooping up past the bridge and through the new roadworks that have been happening in the area. And this will give you a first sight of what the elangeni type of TVET college campus is existing within. Now, on the one hand, Kwadabeka is a very new township, if you can call it that. It's around about 30-40 years old. But on the other side, it exists right next to Claremont, which was one of the only places black people could buy land, freehold land, and build in the Durban area. But the most striking feature we have in Kwadabeka are the famous, some would say infamous, KK hostels, built during apartheid times to provide single-sex housing for young black labourers coming through from the rest of KwaZulu-Natal and looking for work in urban areas. To be fair, there's been a lot of attempts to develop the KK hostels, provide good sporting facilities, good medical care, and there's been some success in that regard. Now, the Kwadabeka campus offers a combination of business studies programs and engineering studies programs. So you can do electrical engineering, and you can do all sorts of business management and financial management. You can do computer skills, and you've got a new venture creation set up over there. But what I'd like to do is radically pull back to give you a sense of the low income residential areas that the elangeni TVET college campuses are mainly working within. So if you look carefully, you can see the elangeni River running down the middle with the beautiful Inanda Dam. And then if you take a look on your right hand side, you'll see that 3 of the campuses of elangeni are located there, and that's around Inanda, Ntuzuma and KwaMashu. Now, Inanda is the oldest area of settlement of the 3. In the 19th century, it was set up as a labour reserve. And then as more and more Indians started to move into the area to work on the sugar farms, they also started to stay in the area. And this has caused quite a lot of interracial tensions in the Inanda area, but it's also been the area of very proud political developments. So that's where we have John Langa Dube, our first president of the ANC, who was strongly influenced by Booker T. Washington in America, the philosophy that you need a black education for black people. Do something which is relevant and is of use when you do education, not some other white kind of education. Very controversial position currently, and one we need to grapple with in our TVET space. Now, the Inanda campus offers a similar combination of business studies and engineering programs to Kwadabeka, except it also does safety and society, that policing qualification. And right above the campus is elangeni High School. The school started up by Dube, and also the place, by the way, where Nelson Mandela voted in our first democratic election. So this whole area has a very proud history attached to it. So to give another example, right below Inanda is Phoenix, and it's there that Mahatma Gandhi set up a settlement which had a printing press, it had a school, he made sure he had a clinic over there with all sorts of housing developments for the people that were supporting him. And next to Phoenix is KwaMashu. Now that was set up in the 1950s, 1958, for all the black people who were kicked out of Cato Manor. They were forced to relocate in this area. And this technical school was actually built by a Hindu-based community project where they put some funding together to create a technical college in around about 1985. It was called Sivananda, who's one of the great Indian Hindu mystics. So it's quite fitting that the school is right here, quite close to where Gandhi's settlement is. Catching how even in times of great political turmoil and violence, which was happening over here around the 1980s, terrible interracial conflict going on, there were still strong commitments to interracial harmony and working together. Now, if Inanda was set up in the 19th century as a reserve for Africans, and KwaMashu set up in the 1950s for black people removed from Cato Manor, then Ntuzuma, the place we're going to now, was set up in the 1970s, and this was a planned township to deal with the increasing influx of people into the Durban area. Now, Ntuzuma is a straight-up engineering campus. So the KwaMashu campus, which we were just at, was more of a business studies and hospitality campus. Now we've got civil engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering. You can also do all sorts of supportive skills here. So bricklaying and plumbing and machining and cabinet making. And you kind of get a sense that someone like Dube and Booker T. Washington would have been proud of these kinds of initiatives within the area. So let's now do a pull-out of these peri-urban, low-income residential areas where the historical apartheid regime pushed all our black and Indian people to live away from Durban but still provide all the labor. And now track more inlands, and very quickly you'll see that we shift to a more rural kind of Zululand feel, with your sugar plantations on your right and then far more low density living on your left. Although make no mistake, the rivers around this area are terribly polluted and there's all sorts of issues with poverty over here. And not too far inland, tracking some of those old country roads which kind of follow the mountains, we get to the small town of Ndwedwe. And located in Ndwedwe is one of elangeni's smallest campuses. So its main skill that you can do there and main qualification you can do there is civil engineering. When I say skills, I mean they also do bricklaying and building and plastering and those kinds of house building activities. Now you could also do office administration. They do have a computer center, and you can do tourism with all sorts of interesting attempts to take advantage of the local history and the scenic beauty of this area, stretching all the way from here on the one side down to Inanda, where you've got the Inanda Heritage Trail, which takes advantage of the fact that Dube and Mandela and Gandhi were all over there. And I can only hope that the tourism course offered over here doesn't just do a generic learn the textbook off by heart scene, but actually gets the students to engage with the impressive, long, beautiful history. that includes the great Shembe Church with its pilgrimage all the way from Ananda over 3 days, walking through all these mountains, through Ndwandwe and to the great holy mountain of Kazi, which we're going to fly around, although some people also go to the mountain of Ekinani because there's been a recent split in the church. But what we see with these kinds of syncretic religions with Isaiah Shembe is the deep need to combine a Christian tradition with more powerful Zulu traditions and hold the two together, and then to use the combination of both, but the combination of both with a very strong traditional indigenous strength to it, as a means to rebuild a community, not to go back to the older traditions where you're in the kraal, but to look forward to a new community that works in a new world that combines both modern and Christian, Western and African traditional Zulu elements at the same time. So I find the Shembe religion to be a very strong expression of how to move forward in the country, and I'm not surprised that you have hundreds of thousands of our people doing the great pilgrimage all the way from Inanda and through Ndwedwe and then up the holy mountains. So now we've flown over the Elangeni River. You can see the Inanda Dam in the background, and we're now flying towards the Qwadi campus, and that's located near Bertha's Hill. And this used to be a skill center, so it offers civil engineering and electrical engineering. You can do some business subjects like business management, office administration, finance, economics and accounting. And you can do quite a lot of skills like bricklaying, plastering and plumbing. And it also has a computer center where you can get a computer core certificate. Now, if you look south over the N2, which goes to Durban, to your left, you can see the town of Mpumalanga. And let's travel there via eLangeni, a little hamlet nestling just before the N2, around which you have Cato Ridge, and the whole idea to develop a dry port so that you can develop railway links and road links to alleviate all the pressure of all the imports coming through from Durban. So this whole area has become a new development node, and so it should be, because Mpumalanga was set up in the 1960s as a labor reserve. And what happened was at Hammersdale, you can see that little industrial zone over there. That was basically a clothing manufacturing place. And almost everyone over here got their work there. But what happened when the ANC came into power in 1992, 93, 94, you had the situation where they radically opened up the country's economy. They liberalized it. They allowed cheap imports. And what that meant was all the people in this area actually lost their jobs, creating huge unemployment. And it makes one realize that having a good TVET campus, like this one over here with its agricultural projects, doesn't mean very much if the state policies, the larger big state policies, are resulting in unemployment and the loss of jobs and the loss of work. So TVET campuses like the Mpumalanga campus can help the economy with improved skills, but it is not responsible for the economy. It's not responsible for the lack of jobs. It's not the person's fault at the college for not having a job. That is a state and societal responsibility that we cannot place at the foot of the TVET door. So we're now flying through Shongweni. We've almost come full circle. You can see Durban in front of you. You've got Chatsworth to your right. And we're going to fly over Marion Hill with its Trappist monks and its monastery towards Pinetown, the old resting station for the wagons moving between Durban and Pietermaritzburg. And it's over here that we have one of the best elangeni campuses. So you can really do finance, economics and accounting, you can do hospitality, you can do IT and computer studies, office administration, tourism, you can do all the engineering qualifications over here. They've got all the business studies programs, and on top of that you can do retail and travel, you can do food and beverage, and you can do professional cooking. It's also the administration center, and it's also got a hostel for some of the female students. And that gives us first sight of the elangeni tvet college campuses. So you have those huge low-income residential area type campuses around Inanda, Ntuzuma, KwaMashu and KwaDabeka. Then you have the more rural campuses around Ndwedwe and Qadi. And then you have Mpumalanga, that old labor reserve far away from Pietermaritzburg, far away from Durban, decimated by the loss of clothing production as their major job source, but now part of a new initiative to grow the line between Pietermaritzburg and Durban. And then finally the Pinetown campus, better infrastructure than all the other campuses, offering more programs across different areas, and on top of that also having the hostel and being the administration center. And that gives you a sense of the elangeni tvet college and the really interesting context that it actually works within.